Hi and welcome back. This is the second video on dynamic mapping using Google Maps and geocoding your data. Now we're off of the tutorial part right now, but we'll get back onto that. Just a second here. Okay. This is a script that we used to geocode in the last video our records, and I'm going to go over this script a little bit here. And first of all, you connect to your database. This is my connection file right there. And what I forgot to mention before is all of your Google services require a Google key. Now I'm not afraid to show you mine because it doesn't really matter. The keys are basically website specific, so that if your request is not coming from that website, your key is not going to work. So you need to be aware of that and go to the tutorial section there and grab you a key. There's a link on the left hand side. Their keys seem to have a lot of different keys for a lot of different things. I just kind of Forrest Gumped my way into this one and it worked. So there's another one I'm using on the other part of the tutorial, which I'll get into. And that worked, and there's like a version 2, version 3, whatever it is. But anyway, let's move on. Next line here opens your connection, then set the active database, and then in this line here what we're doing is we're selecting the rows in the marker table. This says select all from markers where 1. Now where 1, that's just true, so basically what that's going to do is that's just going to return all of the records in there. When we get into my application that I'm using it in, I change this around a bit, and also this file is rather important to keep around because you're going to add it into your parsers for your new record and your parser for updating a record. The reason being, you don't want to run this file each and every single time you add a record, because what this file is doing at this point, where it has where 1, that means it's going through every record in your database and rewriting the data to every record in your database. We don't want to do that. You only need that data in there one time. I mean, the Earth, unless the Earth shifts or something really crazy happens, you don't really need to change that. The data is accurate, and you know, like I said, unless something tremendous happens, you're not going to need to change it. I've been through that data 100 times, and the most inaccurate thing I was ever able to find anywhere was where the dot was 100 feet away from the actual front door of the location I was trying to map. And you know, in my book that's pretty good, so you only need to map that one time. And the next thing is they have a delay in here, because if you're doing a lot of records, apparently Google's geocoding will choke out those records after a while, so they have kind of a looping delay code. I'm not going to get all involved in that, because once you've run your database one time through this system, you're going to want to change this and just use it in your parsers. You may want to keep this around in case you get a whole bunch of records, in case you haven't put it in your parser. If you don't put this script into your parser and modify the parameters to where it'll only update new records, you're going to want to maybe run the script again. So I would keep the script handy, but basically what I would do is I would change the script where it says from markers and update markers to your own data. Now I'm going to move over to my own data's parsing form that I've written for my parser, and this parser is a part of my ad manager right here. This advertise, or I say ad, okay, because this is part of a system that's in an advertising system. But anyway, this is a contact system. It's contacts, and it's also just markers that I have. Now I'm going to go to this one. You'll notice all of these boxes are green. This is a dynamic driven grid, which means anything I add to it's going to add to the grid. It's going to add one of these boxes and 3 across, and it's going to keep on adding. You can learn about that from, I'll have a link on my website to Adam Curry, this is his tutorial on dynamic grid, and that's a very useful thing. Anyway, back to this. You'll notice that all of these are green. That's because all of mine are visible. I'll go to the edit form here, and this is where I edit a record. You can see I have name, email address, latitude and longitude, which is automatically filled in. The city, state, zip. Zip is meaningless for mapping. Web link. This is where you can put in a link in my system. And I also have the pin color. You'll notice that the color of that one was blue. I'm going to change it to red. And I've added something to mine, which is an enum. It's 1 or 2, and 1 is show on map, 2 is hide on map. So basically my logic in the display form is where blah equals blah, and showing equals, or visibility, whatever, equals 1. So if I enum this to 2, then it's not going to show up on my map. And not only that, on my dynamic grid in here, it's also going to show up as red. So I know that anything in red, or in this case it looks more like pink, is not going to show up on the map. So when I zoom in on this, I'll get other things, but I won't get the in. Now, when I go back here, and no, I don't want that. I want the edit. I'm going to show it on the map, update it. Now I go back here, you can see I'm not in red anymore. I do have a red marker. We're going to go here, we're going to look for a red marker. I think it's going to show up somewhere around here when I refresh. Yep, there it is. And if I click on that, that's the in at Key West, and it's showing. So, okay, back to the parser form. Let's see where we're at. Okay. All that data is parsed in this parser form right here. And then when I get down to here, that's the end of the parsing data. Now the logic that came from this form over here is now in this section right here below the parser. Everything below this line, I don't know why my PHP is over there. Anyway, everything below this line, you'll see my map key. You'll see my host is Google Maps. Open the connection, MySQL connection. I don't have my connection file in here because I have my connection file up here. So I've taken that out of this form where I have it at the top of this form, and it's a part of my parser anyway, so it no longer needs to be involved in the in this section. So I take that out, but pretty much everything else I put in with a couple of changes here. And here are the changes that I've made. I take from the demo database that they showed me, I've replaced that. I've replaced that with my database and all the way through here. And a very important thing I want to show you, in my database itself, you'll notice that my fields, I have address, city, state, and zip. I don't have one field like they have in their database. They have in their database, in the markers, they have one field that deals with the address, and it's address, city, state, and it's got commas in between them. Most people don't structure address fields that way. So the first thing I had to do is I had to go ahead and find a way to structure that with the commas in it, and the way to do that is concat ws. So I'm going to show you how that works in my system. First I'm going to go ahead and completely explain this line. So anyway, I've picked my fields that I want, and I've picked concat ws with a comma and a space, and I'm concatenating the address, the city, the state, all three of these, and each of these is going to have a comma and a space when they concatenate as new stuff That's what I've called this field. This is the field new stuff, and we're using that down here to construct our geodata. And then this is from my table where fslat equals 0. Now, explaining this is where you don't want the script to run through your entire database. So this is where this script is going to run. We've already run our parsing script, so that's over with. We're done with that. All we're doing now is making sure we have a latitude in here. So if lat equals 0, then it says go ahead and operate this code. If lat does not equal 0, you know, there's nothing here to run the code on, so the code's not even going to run. It's just going to be done, and you're going to have parsed your record. Now, where that's important is, let's go back here to the record. I'm going to show you real quick, like, oh, wrong place. Okay, we're messing with this one here, the Inn at Key West. Okay, if I take this record here, if I take this latitude completely out, and okay, got a red flag. I'm gonna put an orange flag out there. Actually, a white flag just for kicks. I'm gonna change it up. Okay, you'll notice I had zeroed that, and now I have a white flag. But when I go back to this, it's not going to be 0 because it updated. Now, if I do longitude, I haven't specified to do an update on longitude, so if I do longitude, it should remain the same. And I've never tried this, but I'm going to try it right now. It should remain the same if I didn't change longitude. And it did. It remained at 0. Now, the reason this is useful is because you only want to change 0. Now, unless you have a latitude that is sitting on 0, and there is actually a 00 latitude, and that is sitting off the coast of Africa. I've actually looked it up. I thought it was kind of neat that you could go to 00 latitude, longitude. At any rate, if you have a flag that you find is, you know, 300 feet off of where you want it to be, you can actually sit here and screw around with these numbers until you get it right. And that's another reason why you don't want these numbers to consistently be overwritten. Now, since I don't want 000 in that, I'm going to go ahead and put 0 on the latitude. As long as there's a 0 on the latitude, it will update your latitude and longitude using this system. Okay, I'm sorry, I went to the wrong thing. So anyway, go back to the Inn at Key West, and you'll see that it's populated because I put 0 in latitude. And that explains the use of this in a parsing form. Basically, Google doesn't want you to sit there and just constantly query their geodatabase. So this is kind of a, you know, it helps them out, it helps you out, because you don't really need that load on your database. Once you have that information in there, that information is good forever. So, you know, it's very nice of them to allow you to geocode records in this way, and I think that's awesome. So anyway, the very last thing that we need in here is the update portion, and this is directly from here where it's updating in the tutorial. It updates markers, and it's setting lat where ID equals whatever. So this is what you want to change. You want to change markers to the name of your database. You want to take lat, and you want to, whatever lat is in your database. If it's lat, that's great. If it's not, name this what you're using for latitude. And then here is longitude. Make sure that that name coincides. I didn't have lat and long on my database, so I went ahead and put lat and long. Of course, I like to prefix everything, so my lat and long is fs lat and mine is fs long, and I've got to change my real escape string as well, which I haven't done. And what this coordinate split thing is here, I have no clue. But anyway, I'll get around to getting that done. It works without it, so that's fine. So anyway, in the very next one, we're going to go ahead and get into the actual making of the map. And that's it. We'll see you then.